We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Shabbat, and Siman Resh Pehei, the Halachot of Shenayim, Mikra, V'Chat Targum, and we're up to Seif Dalit, on Daf Samech Gimel Amud Bet of your regular prints of Mishna Berura. Maran writes, Mitzvah min ha-muvchar sheyashlim ota kodem sheyochal b'Shabbat. The Gemara, obviously, as we mentioned before, says a person should be mashlim parashiotav im hatzibur. That's the language of the Gemara. That the obligation of Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum is that you should do it with the tzibur. And we already focused on the fact that the person should not be starting it too early. The last Seif Gimel in Shulchan Aruch said that you could start it from Sunday, which technically speaking, as we explained in the Mishna Berura, means from Shabbat afternoon after the public reading of the next week's parasha. That's when you already, as a tzibur, started the next week's parasha. And the deadline, lechatchila, says the Shulchan Aruch, would be to finish your Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum before you eat the morning Seudah of Shabbat. That means when you read in the tzibur, the parasha, you already finished it. And the next stage of Shabbat morning is eating Seudah, right? So before you eat Seudah, you already want to finish, because that's when the tzibur has already completed the reading of the week's Sedra, the week's parasha. So therefore, mitzvah min ha-muvchar sheyashlim otah kodem sheyochal b'Shabbat. The mitzvah is, see to it that you finish the parasha before you eat on Shabbat morning. Now, the Chelek Ya'abetz writes, the reason for this, that you should be reading Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum is before Seudat Shabbat, is Zirizim Maktinim LeMitzvot, right? And that means even tasting something, not just sitting and eating Seudah. Even before Kiddush of the Shul will come out, according to Chelek Ya'abetz, the son of the Chacham Tzvi. And this is obviously for someone that could do that. If someone is weak and needs a little boost, a little kiddush after the tefillah, to be able, especially like a person that does nets, for instance, and you're done by 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, you're not eating Seudah until later, so you want to sit and learn and do your Shnai Mikra, but you need a little boost of little food to be able to sit and learn for a few hours. So obviously that would be permissible, because you're not being yotze or Seudah with that. The Chafetz Chaim writes from the Midrash that Rebbe gave a tzava'ah, gave a commandment, a directive for life to his children. And the Midrash says, one of them was, Al tochlu lechem b'Shabbat ad shetigmeru kol ha-parasha. Don't eat bread on Shabbat until you finish the entire parasha. Right? Now, of course, says the Chafetz Chaim, mikol makom pashut de'en la'akev machamat zeh achila ad achar chatzot. You have to have a prior, a person has to have moznet tzedek, a logical system of prioritizing what is more important halachically and what is less. This is an inyan. It's mitzvah min ha-muvchar in the language of Shulchan Aruch. To eat Seudah after chatzot, that's b'di'evet. You don't want to eat your Seudah after chatzot.
Is that only if you haven't had anything in the morning, so you don't want to be b'tayim?
Well, inyan lechatchila, even if you're not fasting, there are two things. One is the isur of fasting on Shabbat, which the Rashba says, Magen Avraham brings the Rashba, it's isur d'oraita. So that you could take care of by having a little coffee in the morning before you come to shul, and you're not fasting. But still, lechatchila, a person wants to have Seudah before chatzot. So it says the Mishna Berura, you should not be ma'akev your eating until after chatzot, just like we're going to have in upcoming Simanim, Siman Resh Pei-Het, we're going to have this discussion with Zat Hashem, but that would be not a proper balancing act if you're waiting for this and then you're missing the actual halacha of the Seudah. So says the Mishna Berura וזהו רק מצווה בעלמא. This is מצווה מן המובחר. ולכתחילה ונכון, אם לא קרא שניים מקרא ואחת תרגום, בערב שבת, להשכים בשבת, בבוקר ולקרוא שניים מקרא ואחת תרגום, קודם הליכתו לבית כנסת, says the Chavetz Chaim, best would be wake up early in the morning and do it before you go to shul, שניים מקרא ואחת תרגום, and then you're good to go. Says the Shulchan Aruch now, continuing, ואם לא השלים קודם אכילה, if you didn't do it before eating the סעודה of Shabbat morning, then yashlim achar achila at the mincha. Then do it after Suda. After Suda until mincha of Shabbat. Because mincha of Shabbat is when you officially start the next week's parasha. Then already you have closed the chapter, so to speak, publicly and communally on previous week's parasha. So the next best would be, the best would be to do it Erev Shabbat, Friday, like the Mekubalim with the Tefillin and Talit, Tefillin of Rabbi Rutam, sit there and do Shnai Mikra every Pasuk twice and then Targum. That's the best way. Go to Mikveh before, awesome. Didn't do that. So do it before Shacharit of Shabbat, Seudat Shacharit. Couldn't do that. The next best would be do it after Seudah, but before Mincha, because Mincha is when you start publicly and communally the reading of the next week's parasha. Says the Shulchan Aruch, V'yesh omerim, there are those who say that if you didn't do it, you could do it ad Revi'i Shabbat. You could do it until the end of Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Because the days of the week are divided, until Tuesday, and we had this in early Simanim of Shabbat, of when you could and can't travel, travels that may bring you to Chilul Shabbat. We said until Wednesday, it's machloket if it's included, not included, right? It's attached to previous Shabbat. From Wednesday on already you have to be concerned about the next Shabbat. Right? And Kabbalistically speaking, this also has a tochen, because the way that Tosefet Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama work is on Wednesday you already accept next Shabbat's Tosefet Nefesh. On Thursday, you accept the Tosefet Ruach. And on Friday, you accept the Tosefet Neshama. And then the same way happens afterwards, that after Shabbat, you still maintain the Tosefet Naran, we call it Nefesh Ruach Neshama, of the previous Shabbat. Sunday, you lose the Tosefet Neshama. And Monday, you lose the Tosefet Ruach. And on Tuesday, you lose the Tosefet Nefesh. This is a bad way of saying it. It still stays with you until Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That's the way it operates. So therefore, up until the end of Tuesday, still is connected, so to speak, in some sense, with the Shabbat prior. And says the Shulchan Aruch, therefore, you have this Yesh Omrim, that you can still do it until the Tuesday night, basically, the Tuesday evening. That's the Hagahot Maimonides on the Rambam. And Maran now brings there's a number of shitot that he's bringing. The best is Friday, afterwards Shabbat before Suda, afterwards Shabbat before Mincha, afterwards until next Tuesday, right? For Yesh Omrim, the next one is also brought in Hagahot in the name of Rabbi Simcha. Yesh Omrim at Shmini Atzeret. You could do it up until Shmini Atzeret, which is like right before Simchat Torah, when it's Siyumah Shel Torah, when you finish the reading of the Torah. So hopefully by then you have kept cheshbon of all the parashiot that you missed doing proper Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum, and you're sitting there like pounding Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum, and that's also still a plausible option. Says the Mishna Berura, Ad Revi'i, why until Wednesday? Because Shlosha Yamim Rishonim Shayachin Adayin K'tzad LaShabbat Shavar. There's still connection the first 3 days till Tuesday evening to the previous Shabbat, like we had it before, as we discussed, and we're going to have this later in Havdalah as well. That if you missed Havdalah until Tuesday, you could say Havdalah, it's attached still to. That's going to be in Siman Resh Tzaditet, the halachot of Havdalah. Therefore, b'di'evad you could be mashlim. Shmini Atzeret is be'eretz Yisrael. says Chafetz Chaim, because there you do Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah together. It's one day. In Chutz La'aretz really would be Simchat Torah, like a day after Shmini Atzeret. But again, you don't want to L'chatchila, you don't want to rely on these things. You don't want to be after Shabbat. You want to do it by Shabbat, maximum before Mincha, and that would be the proper way of conduct. It says the Shulchan Aruch in Seif Hey, Yachol likrot parasha Shnai Mikra v'Chatargum b'shat Kriyat Torah. You could actually utilize the time of Kriyat Torah for that. Now, in Hilchot Kriyat Torah, we had this discussion. Also, Maran brought 3 different shitot in all at once, and the Achronim say Maran is passing like all those kulas that you could turn away and do your own thing, right? As long as you're not disturbing the Kriyat Torah, you could be reading along, you could be learning Torah at the time of Kriyat Torah. So it says Shulchan Aruch over here, and we mentioned actually this Shulchan Aruch over there when we were discussing the halachot of Kriyat Torah. So here we have it again, that if you need to utilize the time, you can sit there as they're reading the Torah and not listen to them, but just do your own thing of finishing Shnai Mikra v'Chatargum, what needs to be done. Okay? Says the Mishna Berura, Ubesiman Kuf Memvav, this is the halachot of Kriyat Torah that we discuss. We saw a discussion over there. We saw those who say you should not be doing this, and the Sfaradim actually kind of paskin like that. Rabbi Tzchak Palaji, Yafel Alev, others as well. Chaim brings this. That they say we Sfaradim, we don't do that, but Chacham Ovadia says Shulchan Aruch, we go with the Shulchan Aruch allows all of those kulas that he brings, the Yesh Omrim, all of those he's paskening the halacha, and therefore it's mutar to do Shnai Mikra v'Chatargum when the Shelech Tzibur is reading the parasha in the Sefer Torah, but you don't want to do that in Parashat Zachor, because that you have to be listening. That's midoraita. That's something that you have to be yotzeh with the Shelech Tzibur, so therefore then you should not be doing your own thing. Everyone needs to listen to the Kriya from when the Shelech Tzibur is reading it. Now, to be completely honest, the Shulchan Aruch says this in Kuf Memvav. Over there, after Maran brings all these kulas, Yesh Omrim, it says a Yerushalayim should be machmir to listen to the Kriyat Torah. Right? Now, that being said, there is a debate whether the Kriyat Torah that we do publicly in the Tzibur is Chovat HaYachid or Chovat HaTzibur. If it's Chovat HaYachid, then every single individual should be listening to it. If it's Chovat HaTzibur, then the Tzibur has to read it. You don't have to be there necessarily. This actually became a massive question in COVID when there were minyanim, but many people were missing the minyanim, right? So what do you do if my tzibur read it, but I wasn't there because I was high risk, whatever it is? I mean, at least towards the end, when people were opening up the shuls, that became something. Or let's say if they read it and you had to, for one aliyah, you were out in the bathroom, to use the facilities. They have to go to a different shul and catch chamishi over there. If you say it's chovat hayachid, then yes. If you say it's chovat tzibur, then my tzibur read it. But l'chatchila, certainly Maran says a person should be listening to the Yerushalayim, should be listening to the Kriyat Torah. V'chenu da'at gra shehuba b'sefer Ma'aserav. The gra holds the same way that you have to listen every word and word. Kol teva v'teva. V'lirot b'chumash, and mistakel inside. You have to look inside and follow. V'lo yesaya lekor. Don't read along with it. You want to just listen. Now, umashma, says the Chafetz Chaim, they שתפסו העיקר כדעת השיבולי הלקט, they paskin, like the Maram and Shibolei HaLeket, others, the Beit Yosef also brings it, the rak ben gavra legavra mutar, that only between the aliyot is mutar, but not during the aliyah. Umikol makom, says the Chafetz Chaim, at the end of the day, after everything said and done, nir'ed likro belachash, milah b'milah im shaliach tzibur, en lachmir b'zeh. Even according to them, you could read along with the Shaliach Tzibur quietly, and there you will have one of your Shnai Mikra v'Chatargum. Kevan shemechaven az gam nishma, because you're also listening to him at the same time. It's not disturbing to read the same thing that he's saying as you listen to him. So therefore, that would be fine.
You say reading it is one and listening it is two?
No, one. Listening by itself would not be considered one necessarily. L'chatchila, for sure not. Right? So Magen Avraham says this one you could do even l'chatchila. Okay. Now, he actually brings the Shulchan Aruch, when he finishes saying this, over here, it says in the parentheses here, whoever is the parentheses, if it's Berhet, if it's not so clear, it says, V'ayin le'el siman kuf mem vav. On that, the Chafetz Chaim says, this is a reference to what we said, that at the end of that Seif in siman kuf mem vav, Maran himself says, the Shulchan Aruch, Maran Shulchan Aruch says, the Masik Shama Mechaber B'Seif Bet, the Nachon Lemedaktek, that the person that's careful, Shamayim, who's careful in his actions, Lechaven Tato Leshom'a Mipi HaKoreh. After all those kulas that Maran brings, which the Achronim say, Harvadia also goes with that he's paskening all of those three kulas. At the end of the day, he says, if you are a metaktek b'dvarav, you should be, Shamayim, should be careful to listen from the Shach Tzibur when he's reading. Don't learn your own learning or say your own Shem Rabbi Targum. Mishum d'chashash gam ken l'da'at ha'poskim she'eveti lemala. He's also choshesh for those poskim that we mentioned above. Okay, one more seif here. Melamedet tinokot enam tzrichim lachzor v'likroa parasha b'Shabbat. If you're a teacher that's teaching, Mikra to the kids, and you've read it already, right? You've read it, which they would learn also the Targum in the time of Chazal in Aramaic with the children. So you've done many times Mikra and you've done the Targum, that counts already, your Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum, you're good to go. Nowadays, they don't do the uncles, certainly not. So therefore, if you've done the Mikra, then you have to only do Targum nowadays. Fine. By the way, you see from here that the Ta'amim is not Ma'akev. The Chatchila, a person should be doing Shlai Mikra Targum with the Ta'amei Mikra, not just going correct, right? Do it with Ta'amim properly, right? With all the tropes. But you see from here that the tropes are not Ma'akev. If you did it without the tropes, because with the Tinokot Shevet Rabban, you're teaching them the Pesukim, not necessarily with the tropes. Still will be Yosef. Okay, let's finish up this Siman, the last Seif Zayin. Maran writes, Ein sarich likrot parashat Yom Tov. When you have additional readings on Yamim Tovim, on Chanukah, and all those things, you don't need to do Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum. Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum is wherever in the journey through Parashiot of the Torah from Bereshit to Devarim, wherever the Tzibur is holding, you should be doing Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum with them. When you have Parashat Moadot, you have done that already, or you will do that, or when they'll get to those Parashiot. So therefore, there's no additional obligation to do Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum in Parashat Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, and Yamim Tovim. Says the Ramah, V'chen en tzarich likroa haftarot. Same as with haftara. You don't need to do Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum on haftara. U'mikol makom na'agu likroa haftara. But the minagis, people do read the haftara. V'shabbat shel chatuna yikra haftara shel Shabbat v'lo sos asis. Fine. Says the Mishna Berura, you don't have to read to yourself the parasha of Moadim, Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum, because you already read the whole Torah. You're going to read the whole Torah from Bereshit to Vezot HaBracha. Therefore, you don't have to be concerned about that. Hoshana Rabbah, you have to read Shnai Mikra V'Chat Targum, the parasha of Vezot HaBracha. Ends up being very difficult because you don't have any other time. You have to do it on that week. Basically, will be on the day of Hoshana Rabbah, which is the last day before Simchat Torah. Even if you do it on the Yom Tov itself, or Shmini Atzeret, still fine. Now, the minhag is to read Haftarah is because Shema Yikra'u Lemachar Lemaftir, because why you have to prepare it before? like Shnai Mikra, I have to do on Haftarah, what the minhag is to do that. Why? Because maybe you're going to be called up to the mafter, you don't know. The Gabbai might like your face tomorrow morning and call you up, right? And then you're going to be put on the spot. And if you didn't prepare it, then you're going to not be reading it properly, which is not kavod tzibur, right? The halacha is a person should prepare it 3-4 times even, the parasha that they read. After, even if you're a Baal Korah, you're a seasoned Baal Korah, you still need to prepare. So therefore, a person should be doing that. That's maybe the tam of the minhag, writes the Chafetz Chaim. Therefore, you want to be baki v'ragil ba. Mashenke parashiyot shel Yom Tov, shesham chazan hu hakoreh. By parashat Yom Tov, you don't have to do it because the chazan is reading it. Maftir, the guy that gets aliyah, reads the haftarah. Fine. The rest of it is not as nogea, that last piece. So we'll stop here. We'll start the halachot of Musaf, Siman Resh Pei Vav, in the days to come. Hazaku Baruch.